All right, welcome everyone to our November general meeting for the 24th of 2024. Just to let everyone know, we are being recorded, so decorum is kind of a thing. This meeting is going to be put on YouTube and the LTC channel. By staying in the meeting, you consent to both terms. Our timekeeper is Amy Baranowski. Please be mindful of time limits. To speak, please use the raise hand function in Zoom or type an asterisk into the chat and wait to be called on. Our stacker is Mitchell Paulin. Captions are available. If you think that you're not sharing enough, you have something to contribute, and you've been silent on that, please step up and bring forward your perspective. If you're dominating the discussion and talking a lot and other people haven't had a chance to weigh in, please step back so that they pass the microphone so we can share the circle. Please assume positive intentions for everyone here. We're all working towards justice and equality. If your words cause hurt to someone else, that person can say ouch, and then you should be accountable and say oops. And if it's a more involved injury, then you can have a meeting afterwards and you can discuss the complexity of the issues at hand. Please speak slowly and clearly when you are addressing the group. Our brief attendee intros and land acknowledgement. So, not yet, okay. Also after that, Solidarity Lowell intro, news committee and updates. We are going to do allied organization updates. If you hear promote another group event, please do so during the group updates. Our featured speaker will be Sam Goldstein, making a more progressive city council for 2025. And then finally at 6:55, we'll do a wrap up. Getting to know you. Introduce yourself. The moderator will call on you. Your name, your pronouns, where you live, and what is your favorite pie. Please do not claim it is a number pie unless you can recite at least the first 10 digits from memory. All right, my name is Ryan Hammond. My pronouns are he, him. I live in Lowell's Acre neighborhood, and my favorite pie would be pumpkin pie. And next I will call on Amy Baranowski.
Amy Baranowski, pronouns are she, her. I live in the Acre with him. Favorite pie? I mean, it's probably pumpkin. Let me go. I'm going to say chocolate pie, even though I know that's probably Marissa's answer, but I'm saying it anyway.
John Grossman, he, him. I live in Pawtucketville. I try to avoid pie these days, but my mom used to make a really great derby pie. The key words are bourbon and chocolate.
Hi, my name's Sam Goldstein. I am from Medford, and my favorite pie is apple. Use he, him pronouns.
My name is Dan Martin, he, him, from Lowell, but I live in Drayton now, and favorite pie is probably apple pie, apple crisp, somewhere in that area.
John Mitchell, he, him, left Lowell to move to Haverhill because those are the people that took my money. And my favorite pie is squash pie with whipped cream and vanilla ice cream.
Yes.
Penny Taylor, see her. I live in Medford. Sam invited me along, and my favorite pie is pecan pie.
Ron Peachtree, I live here in Lowell and I'm part of the coordinating committee for Solidarity Lowell. My pronouns are he, him. I love cherry pie and pumpkin pie, but challenge accepted. 3.1415926535897932.
Of course. How do you know he's right?
Confident.
I want you to know I put that in specifically because I knew that you were going to do that. I guess I should have said 20 digits. Shoot. All right, I'll try harder next year.
That was good. Paul Gaudette from the Highlands in Lowell, he, him. My favorite pie, no question, is apple.
Joseph Boyle, Lowell Highlands, Solidarity Lowell Coordinating Committee, he, him, and I love cherry pie.
French apple, regular.
All right, our next one, Marissa DuPont, please.
Hi, everyone. Marissa DuPont, she, her, hers. I live in South Lowell, and Amy is correct. My favorite pie is chocolate cream pie.
Chris Offerman.
Hi, Chris Afferman, live downtown, pronouns she, her, hers. Favorite pie. I once made a pie but I filled the pie shell with cheesecake mix and then pumpkin mix. No, first pumpkin mix and then cheesecake mix on top of that. And it came out really nice. So I think I'll declare that one of my new favorites.
Right,
Make that again.
Linda Cantor.
Yes. Hi, I live in downtown Lowell. And my favorite pie would be a variation of pie, quiche.
Srevan and Get.
Hello everyone, my name is Rayban, pronounced she or her. I live in Bike Central. My favorite pie is apple pie with whipped cream.
Nice. D. Hotzak.
Oh.
Oh, no, okay. Mitchell Paulin.
Hey, Mitchell Pollan. I live in the Acre. I use he, him. My favorite pie is French Canadian meat pie.
Oh, okay.
French Canadian meat.
Okay, Lily Foss.
Hi, everyone. Lily Foss. My pronouns are she, her. I live in Manchester, New Hampshire, but I work at Community Teamwork in downtown Lowell. My favorite pie is key lime.
Okay. Todd Wheeler.
Hi, Todd Wheeler, he, him, in Pawtuckaville section of Lowell, and I'm going with pumpkin.
Nice. Judith Durant.
Hi, Judith Durant, she, her. I live in the Highlands and I'm with the Apple folks.
All right. Max Sklar, if you please.
Hello, my name's Max Sklar. Pronouns are he, him, and I actually live in South Hamilton, Massachusetts. I'm from North Shore, Mass, but I work as the assistant pastor at St. Anne's Church, Iglesia Santana, in downtown Lowell. And my favorite pie is chocolate mousse pie with ice cream, of course.
Okay, Daniel O'Connor.
Hi, Dan O'Connor, and my favorite apple pie is just plain old apple.
Okay, Ozo.
Hi, everybody. Ozo, pronouns he, him, his. I live at the Lowell Transitional Living Center. My favorite pie, if it qualifies, it's like one of those, like, is a hot dog a sandwich, would be Jamaican beef patties, a sort of a pie, sort of in that same meat pie thing. I don't know. I'm going with that.
Like the old Hostess pies were the same idea. Okay.
I'll allow it.
All right, I believe that's everybody. All right, land acknowledgement. Here in Lowell, we stand in the land of the following local nations: the Wabanaki or Dawnland Confederacy.
Brian, don't forget to read the statement.
I've got it. Yep. The Pentucket, the Pawtucket, the Agawam, and the Pennacook. This information is from nativeland.ca, and this is our full statement. We acknowledge the land in Lowell is part of the Pennacook. However, acknowledging the Pennacook as sovereign of this land is complex and not the entire story. After rampant colonization carried out through genocide, biological warfare, slavery, and other inhumane methods, the Pennacook were no longer present in Lowell by the beginning of the 18th century. This in no way means that there is no longer any Native American presence in Lowell, nor that there hasn't always been. Local indigenous people will refer to themselves as Pawtucket, Pawtucket, Abenaki, Wamiset, or even Pennacook, indicating the long and intricate history of this place. This is a place where multiple indigenous peoples over time have called their home. Massachusetts is unique in its indigenous history, known as one of the first places where colonizers settled in North America. This also means that it was one of the first places where indigenous people were confronted with colonial violence. The current Native American population in Massachusetts, including here in Lowell, is a testament to the resilience of the indigenous people, as well as their venerated connection to the land here. Only when we acknowledge this land and its history properly are we able to understand an adequate method of recovering from an unjust past. This is why we begin with this statement. We ask you all to educate yourselves further on the indigenous presence and contributions to Lowell, on wherever you consider your home. It is not the burden of these indigenous people to educate us and earn our respect. We are living on land that was stolen, and by educating ourselves and connecting with our local indigenous groups and organizations, we together can work on creating a more equitable and realistic community that works for us all. With this acknowledgement, we hope that these facts will be influential and present in our working towards a better reality. What is Solidarity Lowell? We are a volunteer group of Greater Lowell community members working towards social justice by defending the rights, dignity, and equality of all against hate and discrimination. We welcome new members. The coordinating committee is your elected team of volunteers running the meetings, organizing events, disseminating relevant news, and sharing calls to action. Coordinating committee members, please wave. Coordinating committee elections are held every April. Progressive Massachusetts. We are a chapter of Progressive Massachusetts, a statewide, member-driven grassroots organization committed to fighting for a vision of shared prosperity, racial and social justice, good government, and environmental sustainability in Massachusetts. Visit progressivemass.com or contact us after the meeting to learn more. The Merrimack Valley Project. Solidarity Lowell is a Merrimack Valley Project affiliate. Merrimack Valley Project works towards improving the quality of life in the Valley communities by organizing to save and create jobs of dignity with decent wages, to bring about reinvestment and economic revitalization, to save and create affordable housing, and to identify and pursue other issues related to the welfare of the Valley. Visit merrimackvalleyproject.org or contact us after the meeting to learn more. Victories! Tara Hong officially won 18th Middlesex State Representative race. Massachusetts ballot questions 1 through 3 passed. More transparency in legislature, removing MCAS as a graduation requirement, and allowing rideshare drivers to form unions. Thanks to the pressure of activists throughout the summer and fall, the Massachusetts House and Senate came to an agreement recently about climate legislation. Massachusetts state legislature passed a sweeping economic development bill authorizing nearly $4 billion infused into the Commonwealth economy. And Sarah McBride won her general election in Delaware and became the very first trans member of Congress. Does anyone else have any positive news they would like to share? Ron.
In all of the craziness that's been going on in this election, it should not be missed that we actually got one more seat in Congress than we had. They still have control over the House, but they have one less person than they did during the last cycle.
Wow.
In the middle of all this craziness.
Incredible.
Yes.
John?
Yeah, the 2 bills that are mentioned in the victories have been signed by the governor. So they're law now.
All right.
I would just, the climate bill is a victory. The development bill probably. Tag. I mean, borrowing money to fund development is good, depending on what the development is.
John, could you just speak up a little bit? I'm the note taker, so I can hardly hear you.
It's interesting that we're calling the economic development bill a victory. I don't think it's a bad development, and there are some progressive things in it, and I'm not an expert about it, but the simple fact that the state is borrowing money to fund economic development can be either good or bad, depending on what it is actually funding.
That's fair. Does anyone else have any contributions to positive news? Let me see if I am missing anything up
Yeah,
here.
Dan O'Connor and Ozo have their hands up. Go with Dan first.
Yeah, Dan O'Connor, please.
Okay, yesterday, the United Way, in local partnership with the Dwelling House of Hope Food Pantry, had their Gratitude Projects Distribution Day, and it went from 6:30 to 2:30. The volunteers braved the wind, cold, and rain, and I'd estimate over maybe 3,500 folks were provided meals and provisions. So it was an amazing event. It was kind of tough though, because it rained and got everybody wet to start the day. Then it was cold and windy for the rest of the time. Actually, Vanna Howard and Rodney Elliott were there and spent the whole day, and so a shout out to them.
Nice. Thank you, Dan. Anything else?
Yes, Ozo's next.
Oh yeah, Ozo?
Yeah, thanks, guys. I know this isn't typically reserved for individual accomplishments, but so I was installing my art at or some of my artwork at the Arts League of Lowell today, where I became a co-op artist on top of the couple of shows that I have going on. So I really attribute that to the work that's done here at the Lowell Transitional Living Center and through groups like Solidarity Lowell, who have sort of, raised me, for lack of a better terminology. I really thank you guys for all you've done to help develop me. It's just another big step in the process, and I hope to be, I guess, somewhat of an inspiration for people here that, don't think maybe they could get into something like that. So thank you guys for all your help, but I thought it was definitely noteworthy.
Yeah. No, it definitely gives back to the community in a way. People need emotional outlets and representation. They need to feel like they're part of something. And I think that's not just you. That's something we all benefit from.
And also too, I'll point out, I don't really press these matters too much, but myself being gender non-conforming as well as Black as well, Steve Syverson told me basically the fifth or sixth person of color to be a co-op artist. I mean, I think that's amazing. It's a really big step, and it moves us forward as progressives in general. And I don't really talk about that much because I'm so wrapped up in the homelessness issue, but I think it's really noteworthy, like I said before. But again, thank you so much for your help.
Got it. All right. Do we have any other volunteers for good news? Oh, Paul?
Yeah, let's see, November 14th in Boston, the Massachusetts Communities Action Network had their awards dinner honoring State Senator Liz Miranda. She represents Boston, 2nd Suffolk District, and also the 9 member organizations that make up the MCAN network, of which Merrimack Valley Project is the latest to join. And each of those 9 also raised up somebody for a Shining Star Award. And so I was the one who got named for Merrimack Valley Project, so I have a plaque here. And the other thing last Sunday night, we had the Merrimack Valley Project Micah Awards dinner, which several members from Solidarity came. And the honoree who accepted her certificate and plaque from being a Micah honoree is Christine Offman.
All right. Do we have any others?
Forgot one.
Right, Ron?
We are not going to have a strong suspected pedophile as the attorney general. And yes, that's good news.
That's slightly less cursing at my television next year. All right, any others?
John.
Okay, moving, John, sorry, for more John.
The Gloucester Teachers Union settled their contract.
Yes.
Any others? Okay, then moving along. Mill City Messaging. Amy, take it away.
Yeah, that's me. So obviously there's not really any get out the vote efforts right now, which is why we skip November, but we are going to do a December event. That's Thursday, December 12th from 6 to 8. It's going to be a little different. An activist in the area. She's designing a new set of postcards that you can also, they're made to color on the front. So she wants to get people's opinions. So sort of a beta test. So something a little lighter for December, get together, have some fun and, you know, sit around, have some fun in color. So yeah, hopefully come out to Lala Books on Market Street. And if you have any questions, you can just call, contact me, Amy at solidaritylowell.com.
Okay, thank you much, Amy. Unpacking Whiteness Dialogue Group. Marissa, you have the conch shell.
Hello. Oh, I just dropped a whole bag of Ricola on the floor. Hi, I'm Marissa. I am the volunteer coordinator for the Merrimack. Well, no, this is a different thing. Never mind. My brain is not working today. Okay, Unpacking Whiteness. This is a dialogue group that it's about 5 sessions and explores racial biases, white supremacy, white privilege, explicit and implicit bias, systemic racism, and microaggressions in supportive structured dialogues. Like I said, 5 sessions, 1 a week. It's capped at 10 people and will be starting in January of 2025. After you've attended the dialogue group, you're invited to an ongoing group where we take turns discussing a book or a film. So it's sort of like a book club, but we have a meeting in the middle with a movie. So you get 2 months usually to read a book, which I find helpful because I can't handle the pace of normal book clubs. And then the ongoing group meets once a month. If you're interested in joining the initial dialogue group, we ask that you do that first, obviously, before you join the ongoing group. You can sign up at bit.ly/UW-signup. Please fill that out because that is where you can tell me which night of the week is best for you. Usually we meet at either 6 or 7 on a weeknight. So just let me know which day works best. And once it's scheduled, I will email everybody who signed up and we'll get the ball rolling. Thanks.
Rapid response team.
Sorry. So unless I'm wrong, the thing that Dan O'Connor was talking about is the first item here, right, Dan? The United Way.
Okay, yep.
Okay, so sorry. So that already happened, so.
Okay, Lowell Transitional Living Center. Do we have anyone else talk about that or should I just run down what's on text? All right. Lowell Transitional Living Center needs gloves and hand warmers. Drop them off directly or use the Amazon wish list. Links are also in the latest Rapid Response Team newsletter and will be in meeting notes. If you want to help with the weekly RRT newsletter or have an item to include, please email rrt@solidaritylowell.com. Excuse me. Emergency Housing Coalition. Join us in this coalition effort with LAMA, Merrimack Valley Project, and Solidarity Lowell as we continue the work of advocating for humane treatment of our unhoused neighbors and for affordable housing. Next meeting, December 12th, the Overlook at Mill number 5. Aftermath of public hearing. And for more information on the public hearing and camping ban, watch the video from Ryan Oates. Ryan Oates would normally be going into more depth on this, but he couldn't make it. So we encourage you to follow his work on YouTube. He does a lot of great journalism and informed commentary on many subjects.
And we post his videos on our YouTube, so it would be the Solidarity Lowell YouTube.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Lowell Emergency Housing Coalition will be reaching out to our unhoused neighbors, to prepare them for the possible implications. Please donate to Llama's Mutual Aid Fund at Lowell-Llama on Venmo or $Lowell Llama on Cash App. If you'd like to get involved, email felixfab62@gmail.com. Upcoming events. We have, as Amy was talking about, the Mill City Messaging, December 12th, 6 p.m. at Lala Books in Lowell. We have the Lowell Emergency Housing Coalition, December 12th at the Overlook at Mill number 5. We have the Solidarity Lowell Annual Holiday Potluck Party on December 14th at 3 p.m. And we have the Progressive Mass Annual Meeting on February 1st. All of the events can be seen on our website, solidarity.lowell.com/home/events. Allied group updates and announcements. Please share any important information and upcoming events from other groups you are involved in. Oh, Ozo is asking about the Lowell
Emergency Housing Coalition.
Emergency Housing Coalition. Ozo, we can get you that information after the meeting. Someone can message you with that. Yeah, that's also in the email. Oh, not an email? Okay.
No.
Okay. Merrimack Valley Housing Project. Does anyone have updates from Merrimack Valley Housing Project?
You can just open.
Okay, anyone have any important updates from various groups that we're aligned with?
The Galila Interfaith Group of Greater Lowell Interfaith Leadership Alliance held its twice a year interfaith service, one at Thanksgiving time, which just was held. And what was significant about it, it was held here at this church, and the Islamic Society of Greater Lowell has officially designated a liaison with Galila. So we're making closer connections with the imam there in that community.
Okay, how about Joe?
Yeah, I just wanted to say the time for the next Emergency Housing Coalition meeting is to be determined. We will send that out when we have it.
Oh, okay, great. Dan O'Connor?
Just a note from the Mass Housing and Shelter Alliance. There's a special screening of the film Beyond the Bridge, A Solution to Homelessness. That's going to be December 11th at 5 p.m. and it's in Boston. I know Mahasa is looking to bring the film to Lowell, but if anybody wants to get an early screening, it's on Tremont Street in Boston.
Nice. Do we have any other contributions from our allied groups? Okay, I suppose then we move along. Sam Goldstein from Our Revolution Medford, our featured speaker of the month. Sam Goldstein has worked on several local and national electoral campaigns, including Nika Elguardo's 2017 state representative race and Bernie 2020. He was campaign director for Our Revolution Medford's 2021 and 2023 coordinated campaigns. He currently works at SEIU Local 509. Sam will present on the organizing model and campaign he designed for Our Revolution Medford, how Medford progressives organized to fill the role of an independent progressive party within the city, and how that model might apply to Lowell. Our Revolution Medford's elected members now make up majorities on both the Medford City Council and School Committee. Please type your questions in the chat or use the raise hand function in Zoom. So take it away, please.
Sam has some slides. Is there a way to connect them to the Zoom?
Does anyone who has the tech, okay, people with more technical knowledge than myself will assist with that.
Yeah, it might be easiest if I just join and then,
Yep.
screen share. Should the mic go to my computer or stay with
I say don't bubble up.
yeah.
You move closer.
Yeah.
Turn off the sound, maybe.
We give you the not sharing. Do I send you the link? Let's see.
Oh, I actually copied it.
Oh, you have it.
David
Yeah.
Walter Ruther.
Yep, you should be able to share. If not, let me know. I think we're all in as moderators, so I can give you.
Sure.
They're good.
Double dark chocolate and dark chocolate. They're not good for you, but they do taste good.
They're definitely good at me.
That's how I
Yes.
Amy, I just made him co-host.
You've been dubbed a Batman villain.
Can folks hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. All right. I am joined without audio, so do that. Right. All right, here we go. Hi, folks. Really excited to be here. My name's Sam Goldstein. As was said in the introduction, I work at SEIU with 509 with John. Not here for wearing that hat tonight. Yeah, so Our Revolution Medford started in 2017, late 2016, at a time not entirely unlike the one we find ourselves in now. The first basically grew out of activists in the city. If folks weren't familiar with Our Revolution is kind of the organization that started after Bernie Sanders first ran in 2016. It was sort of built out of his campaign list and resources that were left over. What ended up emerging in the city was, basically a pocket of folks organized around, basically progressivism. So Medford, in 2015, 2017, is a city that's not, I think, unlike what seems to be the dynamic in Lowell today. In fact, Medford actually currently still does have the all-at-large system that Lowell used to. It basically had, had literally the same mayor for close to 30 years until 2015. Really had like a stagnant politics that was dominated by, a handful of pretty conservative, people who were nominally part of the Democratic Party, a lot of them, but, and these are, nonpartisan municipal races, but, really had like a stagnant politics, had never raised taxes under Proposition 2.5. City resources and services were, really not in great shape. So in 2017, Our Revolution Medford was just a group of activists who started off and made a few endorsements in a municipal race that year for mayor and for a couple of school committee seats. A couple of years later, it was in a similar position. There was a little bit more activity. There had been some organizing in the community to grow the size. ORM, and there were a few more candidates who ran, and I ended up working for one of those folks, Zach Bears, who who ended up winning his race. He's now the president of the city council in Medford, and what I'm here to talk about is basically how we kind of went from like, kind of a loose confederation of folks to something that really resembles basically a political party in the city in kind of everything but name.
Sam, how many people are on the council in Medford?
Yeah, so there are 7 spots on the city council. 6 of those are Our Revolution Medford endorsed.
Wow.
Yeah.
And an
candidates.
elected mayor?
Correct, yes. So I want to start by just kind of popcorning this real quick. Like, what would folks say like makes up a political party?
Common vision?
Yeah.
Or a platform?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Any others if folks want to throw?
Should be with it.
An organized system for selecting nominees?
Very good. Exactly. Yeah. Any others?
You said what makes up a political party?
Yeah, like some features of a political party.
Meetings for networking and coordinating campaign volunteers.
Mm-hmm. John, I saw hands.
Some kind of communication system.
Yep.
We had a question online from Judith Durant.
Sure. Some.
Also Ozo.
Yeah. Can I take questions at the end or?
Yep. Yeah, sure.
Although Ozo, if you have another.
Yeah, I was just gonna say shared vision. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. And so, agree with all of that. And, so in Medford, what we developed, was a volunteer network, a donor network, or at least a system for fundraising. We have, the elected officials. There's a shared platform and a process for developing a shared platform that's been very critical. And it's a platform, talk about it a little more. The candidates are basically to be part of the campaign are required to agree to. It's sort of the it's how we've kind of built solidarity to a large extent, although that extends and exists in other forms. And we don't have a ballot line, right? These are municipal nonpartisan elections. There's no party line in them, but effectively. These folks campaign together. The messaging is shared and disseminated collectively, and it's understood by a lot or most voters that they're voting for like a package of program. In addition to that, there's recruitment of candidates, there's training, and there's managing the campaign, which I'm a big part of. So, in just for a little bit of history. So in 2019, the first time we had like kind of like some shared campaign actions and infrastructure, things were very kind of loose. There were a bunch of candidates that all sort of decided to run and then like applied for endorsement, but there wasn't really an active recruitment process. The platform was kind of more of a shared values. It wasn't really like developed through a coordinated development process. Excuse me. And the campaign was successful in 2019. We got 2 of 4 city councilors elected. I think we got I think we held where we were at with the school committee. So it was it was successful, but there was a lot that we learned from the experience of having done that. And so the following cycle, so 2 years later in 2021, I worked on on a couple of larger campaigns on Bernie 2020 and some other stuff. And we had learned a lot from running things in 2019. And so going into that, we made some decisions about how we were going to run the campaign. So one of the things we did is we developed a shared platform platform. That was really critical. If you Google, if folks want to Google now or later, Our Revolution Medford, the platform's very easy to find. It's very prominent. And so, just off the bat, one of the first pieces here is the platform. That is typically developed first. I'm looking to Penny, my girlfriend, who had brought along, who was really critical in the endorsements process, which is the next piece of this. So we would solicit endorsements, and kind of in the background, people would start having conversations with folks in the network. People have been activated. One great thing about running in 2019 is that there was some building up of an activist base. And then, so we have the platform, we have an endorsement process. There are interviews that take place as part of the endorsement process. There's also a candidate agreement that, candidates kind of agree to fundraise a certain amount of money to knock a certain number of doors that are basically, determined to be, what's necessary to be viable in the race. And then, when they get into the race, when they get endorsed, basically what we try to do is we try to walk them through running as candidates, and walk them through in a way where they're not running, and this is kind of maybe the most critical piece, they're not running as individuals, they're running a collective campaign, and that means that they're bringing themselves to the into the campaign, that they're knocking on doors themselves, and they're getting folks that they know to knock on doors. But in addition to all that, there are collective volunteer resources that are distributed to the candidates, and the canvassing that takes place, the voter outreach, the voter contact, and that's canvassing, that's phone banking with a predictive dialer, so making thousands of calls in an evening. That's texting, that's digital ads. That's all done in a way, email? Mail. Oh, and of course, yes, my favorite, direct mail. That, is all done to sort of message all the candidates together, message the vision together, the platform together, and they basically exist as individuals in as far as the voter understands them, but also as like a shared thing. Little budget there that I thought I took out of that. But basically, we're talking about, candidates raising about 10,000 a piece, I think was the ask for the last cycle, $10,000 a piece. I think some raised a little less, some raised more. It sort of depends on how much individual mail a candidate might spend. A mail piece, is very expensive if you're sending that to, thousands of mailboxes. All in all, right, all of those resources put together adds up to a very large campaign. It's a campaign in smaller parts that ends up being quite big. And so, talking about some of these economies of scale that have, I think, been really critical for affecting power in the city, is the shared staff. So last cycle we had 3 staff, myself and 2 others who did organizing, did outreach, did training of volunteers. Joint mail pieces. We send multiple joint mail pieces. These are really good because sending mail to tens of thousands of doors is expensive, and I'll show in a minute some of what we'd send. Sending this out, and saying all of these people support this vision has been, economically, the economics of it make a lot of sense. And it also, is a solidaristic platform that we're putting out in front of the voter. And that's also really exciting. Palm cards. So I'm assuming a lot of folks are familiar with a palm card.
Nope. What is a palm card?
A palm card is the literature, the campaign literature that's distributed when people canvass. So if you get that knock on the door, a lot of the time, no one
Hangs
comes.
on the door now.
It hangs on the door or is left, around the door. Yeah. And
This is
so,
the term for the literature.
Yeah.
yeah.
Lit drop.
So we would send out 2 palm cards with volunteers. One is for a single candidate, and one is for the slate. And the slate palm card, we tried to avoid calling it a slate, to voters, right? Because there's some attitude around slate, what is slate? And it also sort of maybe overemphasizes, the fact that these are still individuals, right? They're still people on their own. They're not there's limits to how that's, to the degree of influence there, but there's a lot. But basically, the slate palm card would have 10 people's faces on it, and some shared messaging. These people all agree to this, and this. The individual palm card would have some biography, have some maybe personally, favorite issues by the candidate. The volunteer recruitment piece is really important here, as well, because we had shared volunteer resources. There was a shared resource pool, but also one of the challenges is that in a city the size of Medford, it's about 60 or so thousand residents. There's only so many volunteers, there's only so much capacity, and to have 10 individual campaigns recruiting simultaneously really draws and limits the efficacy of folks. It ends up creating a situation where it's not so much a solidaristic campaign, but there's lots of competition for these volunteers. And we saw that in 2017. It was very frustrating and challenging. And one of the big innovations of the way we structured this is to channel those volunteer resources so that people canvass for everybody at once. And I'm actually going to skip ahead to show a mail piece just to sort of illustrate this. This was really great. Folks see my pointer. Kit Collins here is a professional artist and designed this in collaboration with other folks who were involved. But as you can see here, we're proud of it. But we wanted to paint a vision of what the city might look like, right? And B, show all of the candidates. Everybody who's running is down here. All of their names are up here in this little cartouche. And then we have some particular policy platform planks, how to get involved. But
was this an 8x10? Just curious.
Yes,
Okay.
This was large, yeah. And we this was the largest mail piece we sent out. We sent out 2 others in addition to all the palm cards that were left behind. So there's a rule of thumb that you want a voter to get 7 what's sometimes referred to as touches, 7 impressions, and optimally they come across different mediums. But we tried to basically structure this so that people were seeing 3 or 4 distinct impressions for the slate, 1 or 2 impressions for a first-time candidate, and that's already getting you to 4, 5, 6, and then the other candidate literature and mail that went out generate additional impressions that hard to exactly prove the precise value of that, but I think reinforce the other candidates. I'm just running through some other pieces here. Accountability is a really big piece of it. Again, the shared platform, having everyone sign on and is really critical. The means of election, right? The campaign structure itself is a collective resource. One issue that you run into a lot in politics is you have a candidate who develops their own infrastructure to get elected, and then they frankly basically from there know that they can get elected on their own because they've done it. And basically cultivating people who understand the role of themselves in the campaign differently has been really critical. And frankly, the people, especially the folks who've come up only since having this shared campaign, just understand their relationship to politics differently. They understand, that they're there and responsible to the community, to the activists who got them elected. And I think that's a really critical piece. It has been transformative, I think, in the relationship between the elected official and the the people, especially the activists, but also residents. And yeah, mention it here in the PowerPoint, but like there's a strong bond as well between the individual candidates because they end up working together a lot. So there's not to say that they're completely in lockstep. They're not violating open meeting law, of course, but they once they're on the council, there's a high degree of familiarity, but also I think a higher degree of trust. And that's really helpful because it helps reduce some political fracture. Some notes about like what the canvassing is like, right? Canvassing, it's important. Canvassing is really, I mean, frankly, like I think it's the critical piece. It's how basically like John and I were actually spent the weekend last weekend at a training, talking about the importance of one-on-one, face-to-face conversations with people. There's nothing like more effective at persuading and swaying and moving someone than having that direct interaction. So we do try to, base the campaign off of that one-to-one and a high volume of canvassing and a high volume of conversations. But to run through the conversation, right, just real quick, it's like, hi, my name's Sam. I'm a volunteer for Zach Bears, who's running along with these other candidates for city council. Some words about Zach and why he's great. He supports, affordable housing and more funding for, teacher salaries, et cetera. And we'll pivot then and say, but we'll engage the voter, right? Ask the voter, what they care about, but then bring it back and towards the end of the conversation say, so Zach's great, but he can't get elected alone, right? And that's why he's running along with all these other folks, because, together they can, build this shared vision of the city. So really trying to get from every conversation what's sometimes called an ID, to ask a question. Will you support this candidate? Will you support Zach? But also asking, will you support these other folks who are running along with Zach? And that's been really critical. Here again, you see the shared mail piece, trying to reinforce all of these conversations with, different mediums. And these are the results from 2023 here. So literally, city councilors running on the slate, 4 of them, a literal majority of the council received a majority of votes from residents, from voters, which was a significant improvement from past years. I mean, what this genuinely means is that most voters chose this option and bought into the slate. Emily Lazaro here was a first-time candidate, and she received a majority of votes. George Scarpelli here has been on the council for several years, maybe 10 years. He's the only incumbent member left. Anna Callahan and Matt Lemming also made it onto the council. They did quite well. Jacqueline narrowly missed. The challenge here would have been defeating the incumbent. And then in red here, you can see, people who were basically Republicans running as like, well, actually not like, running a very like anti-OR Medford campaign. Just clearly like in a separate like tier of candidate. This is some data analysis done by one of the candidates, showing the voting tendencies in the city, and in a nutshell, people tended to vote for, you know, the candidates who ran as part of Our Revolution Medford. 2017 Medford City Council, 2024 Medford City Council. So yeah, I also want to, you know, talk about like applications for Lowell, and, you know, take some questions. But, you know, in a nutshell, I think we're in, hi folks, I think Lowell sounds very similar to what Medford was like about, you know, 8 years ago, in terms of, you know, demographics, opportunity, and also, you know, potentially like the interest in like progressive candidates. So, yeah, I'll take some questions. I have folks in the room. So,
Thanks, Joe Boyle. Where did the platform come from?
yeah, so the platform was developed by Our Revolution Medford activists, and a bit by candidates as well, or people who'd been on the council. And some of it was done through, I think, solicitation of, you know, interest from different groups in the community, but also, and Penny, if you want to like chime in about this too, because Penny's been very involved in some of these pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, like, as we're describing, and actually seeing the slide with all the orgs that you were partners with or friendly with made me really excited, because it was basically reaching out to 20-30 groups in Medford and hearing what people's top issues are. And I think it's part like driving idea, and part action items, like specific things that we want to get passed, and or philosophy. So it's a blend of both, but it is solicited from all the groups in town. So it also is a really great kind of coalition building and bringing people in to sharing the ideas in the project. And I gotta say, so one step is when people apply for endorsement, they say, yes, I support the People's Platform. So you develop the People's Platform first,
Yes.
approve it with the membership, so it has like the will of the group. And then if people want our endorsement, they have to say, yes, I support the People's Platform, and I'll fight for the things in it. And that has been really awesome to bring the issues to the doors. But I think also now that they are elected, they have basically a mandate, huge encouragement to get these things done. And so when there's pushback or hesitation or concerns raised, they know people elected them to get those things done. And I think that's been like, and people are still there to support them and show up and voice support for these things. So that has been just both combos of like, they're committed to these things, and then when they get in office, they are. So really.
Ozo, did you have a question?
So, and you.
Yes. So as far as the shared resources with the candidates go, so does that make things like infinitely more cost effective, like buying things in bulk, and then also as far as like volunteers and whatnot, are they campaigning at the same time? Like, do they door knock and then campaign for 2 or 3 candidates at the same time if those issues are relevant to that person, or how exactly would that go?
Yeah, so the answer to the first piece of that is yes. Basically, you know, any of the shared expenses are, you know, have a denominator, you know, of you know, 10 or 11, you know, in Medford. So, you know, if something costs $1,000 in total, it would cost $100 per candidate. So that, you know, as far as the expenses, that's quite effective. When canvassing, the conversation is about one candidate at a time. So one candidate and then about all the candidates. And the goal is to basically use the one candidate kind of as an entry point for everybody, and then pivot to everybody. Saying that, so, you know, my impression is that the slate canvassing is very effective, that there's a high value to, you know, those IDs. But saying that, you know, there's definitely a higher value to, especially the individual candidate having that interaction. That's very powerful. But yeah, so that's how we did it. Can I, just going to, go, Mitchell, do you want to ask your question? I see you.
Yeah, Mitchell?
Yeah, I had a couple of things. First of all, Judith Durant asked earlier if Medford's mayor is elected directly or by the city council.
Medford, yeah, does have a strong mayor, a directly elected strong mayor. She's not part of Our Revolution Medford, although there's a viable working relationship there right now, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other things. Yeah, I was just going to comment. Speaking of Judith, we the two of us ran for Democratic State Committee early this year in the March election. And mailers are expensive. So we both ran for the same district, different seats in the same district. So we did a combined mailer. And those are 55, 60 cents each. And saving that, putting both of our names on one of them adds up in terms of efficiency.
Yeah.
I think your comments about the effectiveness of running a citywide slate in Medford, where you have an all-at-large council, kind of reminds me of what we saw in 2017 when the high school was the hot button issue in Lowell. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Oh, myself, not so much, but
Yeah, I mean there was very much like the city council had voted to move the high school from its current location in downtown to Belvedere. And there was a coordinated slate to keep the high school in its current location, which didn't win all of its seats, but it won a lot of them. And it kind of reminds me of what you're proposing. Obviously we can't do that exactly the same now, but with each voter picking 3 at-large seats and 1 district seat, there's still something that might be possible.
Yeah.
Judith, did you have any other questions?
We just
I
had one from
did.
Dan Connor and Judith.
I did still have a question or a comment. I have a hard time seeing how we can run a slate, given that 8 of our counselors are from a distinct district, and we only have 3 at-large counselors. And, I absolutely would like to see a slate, but it's not going to work that way. We can't do a mailing that's going to be any cheaper when we have to mail in a different mailer into each of the 8 districts. And, well, mostly that. I can see it for a ballot question if we had one, that would work, but I can't see how it will work for our district counselors.
yeah. Well, I think, there are, I would say there's probably less efficiency in some of these instances, but the flip side of these smaller districts is that they are less expensive to mail to. And if that mail was being split with at-large candidates, there's still a reduction in cost by 50% or more in those instances. I think one of the really critical pieces here is the how volunteering is structured and deployed. So there's still in this scenario you're talking about for Lowell, for instance, there's still capacity to more effectively distribute volunteers. I would say there's also there are ways that you can structure a phone bank where you really don't have those dips in efficiency potentially through certain ways of configuring a dialer. But yeah, I hear you that there's they're not identical structures, so there's differences in that, and it's a little bit of maybe a higher bill to scale.
Yeah, I could see it working for canvassing. If we had a great coalition for an at-large counselor, then when we split the turfs.
Yeah. Well, I would also say that like one of the really significant pieces of this model, I think, is that it changes the political dynamics in the city because it makes it so that, you know, the question isn't like, is this person good or is this person bad, as much as it's, you know, are we going to, you know, move sort of forward into, you know, forward on a different set of values and, you know, try to, you know, do things in the city differently than we have in the past. Yeah, I see a hand here.
Thank you.
I think one of the things that I'm noticing is something that hasn't been mentioned. The Republicans tend to have a persistent class of people who are very good, very organized, and very skilled at doing campaign activities that persists from campaign to campaign, while Democrats tend to try and find a bunch of people every campaign and round up. The strength that I'm seeing here is you guys are a persistent, strength-based, skill-based organization that exists throughout time. And we need more of that in the Democratic Party if we're going to beat the Republicans. So.
Yeah. Mitchell?
I just wanted to bring attention to Dan O'Connor has 3 questions from the internet. Does your organization have a position on individual homelessness? And how has your campaign improved the situation in Medford? How do you handle a candidate who is unpopular and that could be a drag on the slate? And do you work strictly for 509 or are you attached to an agency? Sorry if I need to run by those any of those again.
Yeah. So Penny, did you want to answer that? I know one of our city councilors actually works for or has worked for the Malden Warming Center, which is a shelter in Malden. But Penny, yeah,
Yeah, I was just trying to pull over people's platform. Things like we just formed an affordable housing trust fund in Medford, and that was like 2 platforms ago supporting the foundation of that. There's kind of some like long-term support structures that don't exist in Medford. So things that showed up on the platform that build on that take a long time. The last platform, I can't remember if it explicitly called that out or just named affordable housing production and program supports and funding. But it is certainly, there is housing organizing happening in Medford, and it's progressing because these issues have been on the platforms and the candidates are pushing them and trying to get stuff done. And a little, I think, to the mandate, I think the mayor has come around some on some issues that were maybe she wasn't fully supportive of, that now kind of seeing the support and the commitment and the electeds for them has helped move things along.
I guess the point of my question was, there's certain things that you as a candidate slate or as your organization are interested in, but they might be unpopular or would be hard, like in Lowell. You know, there's the situation with individual homelessness. If you had a candidate or your candidates were saying we want to raise taxes or we want to do this or that to fund a new shelter or to provide services, that could be a problem. So how do you handle, just as an example of, you know, tough positions, that do you stay away from those or?
Yeah, I think this kind of comes down sometimes to like a matter of like how you message stuff. And that can be like what words you use or how loudly you say them. Sometimes like this is, you know, it's sort of a product of the political process. I know, you know, when we were, you know, talking a couple of years ago about how to like sort of message like police funding, you know, it was kind of, I think maybe a similar like sort of messaging, challenge, given like how strongly people felt about it on both sides. And I think what we had arrived at was something along the lines of like wanting to see the funding shift into, you know, different resources, different categories of, you know, services, but not,
But I guess if you
necessarily
had
going
it,
like the least popular, framing. Yeah.
Could I add something, Sam?
Yeah,
So the
please.
last platform specifically included linkage fees to fund affordable housing, transfer fees, which have wound up not necessarily being popular in places to get them done on the state level.
I mean, we've
But
for
also, yeah.
just for quick context, have had like the realtors lobby organizing against a lot of this
Yeah,
stuff over the last year.
But also creating an Office of Housing Stability. So some like very specific things that might be fights, not shying away from like writing it in. That's how we fund the things we want and kind of connecting those dots. But it's actually quite dense, the People's Platform, to be honest. We had a really awesome member of the comms team who broke it down to be like a lot more legible and made little packets that kind of weren't just policy wonk line
We
items.
published a booklet of
Yeah.
it, actually, yeah.
But there's some stuff, there's some tough stuff in there because of a lot of things that's a way forward that we need to build. And some of them aren't going to be wins that election cycle or that 2 years, but kind of starting to talk to people about things that might get where we need to go.
Yeah, and I would actually say this too, which is that I think the platform tends to be heavily values informed and aspirational. It's what we want. There's also, very particular stuff in there too. But the stuff that we message on prominently, right, is going to be stuff that appeals more or seems to, and this is kind of a bit of a process that we feel out right through canvassing, and interacting. We get a sense of what seems to catch for people. But just because we're not necessarily having every conversation about an issue that, would necessarily be madly popular, doesn't mean that, that's not still on the platform or a priority. And, we win people over with the carrot or with with the apple or the sugar or whatever, the sugar cube. Not saying that people are horses, but, so to speak, right? And then, the vegetables are, the candy's there and the vegetables are there too. I guess it maybe a ham-fisted way to say that. And also, I guess seeing your question here, I'm an employee of a local 509, and I've done this, as consulting work on the side when I've done it. Although most of it's been prior to working for.
I guess my last question really was about what if you have somebody who's just unpopular and people in the city just don't like them, but they're on your slate, and can they drag your slate down, or do you have a conversation with them saying, listen, for the best for everybody, if you maybe stepped aside? Is that a conversation you'd have?
Yeah, I mean, a candidate who clearly can't win or isn't well liked wouldn't be a very viable candidate. I think so. We vote on this, right? So our Revolution Medford has a membership, and that membership votes on. There's usually a recommendation from a nominations committee, and if a person can't pass that threshold to get nominated, then they wouldn't be on the slate. So that would probably be the point at which that would get caught. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, did you have any already established politicians who had gotten elected previously join in on the team?
There were a couple, not a ton, but there was one person on the school committee, Mia Stone, who was kind of from an old time Medford family, knew everybody, and it probably helped to have her blessing the first couple of times. So she ran in 2017 and 2019. I guess maybe 2021 as well, although she really was tired of it by that point. And yeah, she was kind of it, honestly. It helped, but there's, frankly, having folks go out and campaign and interact does a lot to kind of build that kind of network. And at this point, the folks who were on, in 2019 are now, very, you know, entrenched in the community. Although even the folks who just got on in 2023 are, you know, familiar faces for people at this point, I think.
I guess the appeal for it, it's somebody who can already get elected on their own.
Yeah.
Is you can't do it alone. You need allies.
Yeah, it gets a little easier. Yeah. I think, you know, I'll say like a significant piece of this has also been like, you know, frankly, picking off you know, seats as they open up, and having infrastructure and a program in place so that like when one of the incumbents, conservative incumbents, doesn't run again, you know, we are, you know, our candidates are the best place to fill those roles in. And, you know, that doesn't all happen at once. And it took a couple of cycles, a few cycles of doing this, to have the majority. And there were a few years there where like, you know, some of the folks who got on before they had a majority were like, fairly frustrated, you know, being on the council, kind of just getting, well, not really getting anywhere because they didn't have enough votes to move stuff. But yeah, I mean, over not that many cycles, over three elections, you know, the majority now, I mean, really over 2 elections, they had the majority a couple of years ago. So I mean, we basically, in you know, the most frank way of putting this is like, we are now sort of the dominant political machine in the city and have sort of usurped the, you know, kind of the boys club. I actually was picking up dinner from a restaurant last night and, you know, saw sitting around table the like previous city council president and some other like, you know, political grandees of, you know, the past. And yeah, it's a new politics. I would say like optimally we don't frame it as like we're going to beat you and replace you, but there is some I mean the goal is to be, you know, to turn over, right? Signaling, you know, both continuity and change in these things is useful. And yeah, any other questions? I just want to like get a hand for time. Are we still good?
Yeah, next question is the last. We're gonna have to be the last one. So any final questions? Joe?
In that process where it took you a couple of cycles, did you run candidates who had previously lost again?
I don't think we actually did. There were candidates who had lost. I think in some instances they would have been welcome to come back, but you know, for whatever reason, you know, we didn't end up doing that. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you said no to anyone?
Yes. Yeah, there have been people who've said no to who, in 2019, there was a school committee member who like, I think had like kind of broken from like the kind of platform at some point, and he was not invited back. There was another school committee member who like was kind of like not on board with where we were at, like charter schools and stuff, and she was like kind of declined. Sometimes this is like a political massaging thing, like maybe you don't apply because maybe you don't have the votes, and sometimes it's a like, you know, the person might come up for a vote and just not get the votes. But yeah. So the answer is yeah. There is try to have like a reasonable tent size, but also like, you know, clear definitions of what is and isn't, you know, the tent. Yeah. Cool.
I mean, one thing to keep in mind is that you're the city that kept electing Pat Jalen.
Yeah,
And
along
we're the city-
with Somerville, but yeah.
And we're the city that, you know, kept electing Stephen Pangiotakis.
We're also the city that keeps electing Paul Donato, so.
Old wounds run deep.
Yeah. All right, thanks, folks.
Yes.
Okay, so the question is, How to improve diversity in the community to get the diverse community to get involved in running or volunteering.
Yeah, that's a tough one that we've worked on. I think it has to do with outreach and being, you know, open and also having like a platform that reflects those interests. I don't know if it's obvious from the photos, but that I showed, but we have and we elected the first he's the first person of color to the city council. He might be, but he's certainly the first Asian American to the city council. There at one point were there was only a single woman on the council for a long time, and you know, it's now I think majority female. And the school committee is also you know, something we've worked on, but it's definitely, you know, it's definitely a challenge. Medford is not, unfortunately, like as diverse a city as Lowell is also. Not to say it's not diverse, but it's not quite as diverse as its neighbors. There's also historically, like there's a Black community in West Medford that you know, basically excluded from the council.
Sorry, I missed what you said just then.
Oh, so historically in West Medford, there was a Black community that was excluded from like city government because of the all-at-large system. We did get a you know, a young African American Aaron Olapade who's from West Medford, who lived in West Medford, and he's now on the school committee. So you know, I would say like, yeah, it takes deliberate outreach and recruitment, and it's yeah, it's not, it takes work, I guess. That's probably
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will see you again. I'll get party in December, and we'll see you again in a meeting in January. Pleasant to have you.
For anybody who's curious, the holiday party will be at my house on December 14th, from 3 to 8. So if you are interested, please, there's a Facebook event and it's on, or it will be on the website. I just realized, I think I forgot to put it there, but there is a Facebook event. Please sign up for the meal train. That is our potluck sign up place. We would definitely appreciate it. And yeah, look forward to seeing you there.
Thanks, Marissa. That's a wrap. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.